Part 80. After having everything taken away, she returns as a god. Author, Qing Qian. Chapter 792. Yu Ziyan glanced at him lightly. I know it's Wen Changji, you don't need to explain. Feng San fell silent for a moment, feeling a little bitter in his heart. Could it be that he said something wrong again? He followed Xiaobai and ran away. Yu Ziyan still stopped where she was, as if she was thinking about something. Mo Yanwen thought for a moment. In this issue of Great Xia Treasure, the person Miss Si wants to talk to is Wen Changji. Yu Ziyan nodded. Well, it will be screened simultaneously around the world, gathering luck for Great Xia. 5,000 years of history and culture is the unique treasure of Daxia. Mo Yanwen suddenly smiled. Your Majesty, why don't you act with a real person and accompany Miss Si? Yu Ziyan's eyebrows moved slightly. You know, she only wants me to be with the world. So this is a very good opportunity, Mo Yanwen said. When the time comes, His Majesty will tell Miss Si that she will not be so resistant. Yu Ziyan smiled suddenly. It makes sense. He stroked his sleeves, and said lightly, tomorrow, I will go to Daxia Terrace to pick her up and mention this matter to the director. Whatever he wanted, he got it. Mo Yan smiled warmly and said, I wish His Majesty a triumphant return in advance. At this time, Si fucking had just arrived at the palace in Yong'an City. Today is Yuan Ye, and the banquet in the palace has just ended. Outside the alleys are empty, and people are setting off river lanterns and watching fireworks. Only here is silence. When Changji was drinking by the pond, his long hair was partly loose, and he looked quite unrestrained. Si Fu tilted the flagon in his hand. This is what she specially ordered from Yunying. What's in a holographic game can be brought into reality, and vice versa. Si fucking walked to the pond. She cupped her fists. I've seen Mr. Wen. The man seemed to be startled suddenly. He raised his head, his eyes dim. When he saw the person coming, his eyes instantly cleared up. When I was young, I went to Ji's house to tell my fortune. When Changji narrowed his long and narrow phoenix eyes slightly, Ji's family said that on this year's Yuan Ye, people from the future will come to see me and talk to me freely. I don't believe in fate, but this curiosity can't be changed, so I have been waiting here, and I really waited for you. Si fucking's eyes changed slightly. Wen Changji is extremely intelligent. When he was 3 years old, he had already reached the realm of poetry in 7 steps. At that time, Ji Chunyuan was indeed still alive. With Ji Chunyuan's ability, it can indeed be counted to this step. Just couldn't figure out who it was. There was no warning from the game system either. Si fucking simply sat down beside him. Why do you think it's me? Your eyes, Wen Changji said lazily. You look at my eyes very strangely. I don't look like a person in this world, not to mention Senior Ji also said that people from the future will come to see me with a jug of wine. Bring it. Si fucking handed him the jug. Wen Changji sniffed it. It smells so good. The wine of later generations is good. I'm yearning for it. Why don't you tell me about it? Si fucking hesitated for a moment, but chose something to say. But she found that the game system didn't stop her from speaking. After Yin Huang passed away, the restraint of the game system on her seemed to have weakened a lot. It seems that even the game system knows that only Emperor Yin can shake history. After listening quietly for a while, Wen Changji suddenly said, aren't you afraid that I will change history when you tell me this? History cannot be changed. Si fucking shook his head slightly. Even if you know what happened in the future and made a different decision, the long river of history will be corrected later. How can a person resist it? Okay, Wen Changji laughed loudly, I'll make a bet with you to see if I can change history. He suddenly took out the pen he carried with him. Today, I will write a poem in your name. Si fucking's expression froze. Mr. Wen. If I can change history, thousands of years later, the school you mentioned will have one more poem I wrote for you. Wen Changji chuckled lightly, one poem won't affect anything. I'm not an emperor who can rule the world. I will change the pattern of the world. Si fucking affect. She will be scolded to death by the students. Poem Jew, don't you know how difficult some of your long poems are to memorize? If you can't, then you can take this poem home. Wen Changji supported his head and smiled happily, it's my souvenir for you. He looked at her, raised his eyebrows even higher, this bet, do you dare to play with me? Okay, Si fucking was infected by his youthful spirit, I bet you. May I ask your real name, Mr. Fu Cheng? Fucking, Wen Changji raised his eyebrows, and he had already picked up the pen and wrote down the word fucking, the general of the Fu building, a good name, then I will write a poem for you with the title of fucking. Si fucking, otherwise, you should be more reserved. She was really afraid that she would be hunted down by the student party. He ignored her this time. Just drinking while splashing ink. In just a few minutes, I finished writing a poem. You take this one. When Changji handed it over, I'll write a few more and keep it safe so that future generations can see it. Si fucking took it silently. When Changji asked again, what do you want to ask me? Si fucking recalled the questions given by the screenwriter, and asked them one by one. When Changji also answered very happily. The last question Si fucking said, does Mr. Wen have any regrets? This time, Wen Changji was silent for a long time. After a while, he said softly, in this life, I have 3 regrets. It's a pity that I was born at an untimely time, and failed to go out with Emperor Yin to fight, killing all directions. According to historical records, Wen Changji was capable of writing and martial arts. Second regret is that there is no confidant, no one to drink wine with. Si fucking silently moved away from the wine that Wen Changji handed over. She was afraid that if she drank it, what would happen if she accidentally beat Shiju to death? In that way, in terms of Daxia culture, there will be one less peak figure. 3 regrets that I can't see the future with my own eyes. Wen Changji's voice was rarely filled with a touch of melancholy, but it soon turned into a long laugh. However, being able to meet Fu Qing can be regarded as satisfaction. He drank sip after sip of the wine, as if he had fallen into that dazed and self-conscious state again. In his world, there are only wine and poetry, nothing else. Today's goal has also been achieved. Si fucking stood up and said goodbye. After walking some distance, the voice sounded from behind her again. Good wine. When Changji toasted her from a distance, thank you, future man. When there was wine and moon, he became very popular with poetry, and immediately wrote a poem with a brush. Tonight, I don't know how many poems will be born. Si fucking woke up from the game cabin. It was already daylight. She pushed open the hatch and took a deep breath. After a long time, he knocked his head and walked out. She asked Yin Huang to study ink for her, and asked Shiju to write poems for her. It can be considered against the sky. Si fucking took out the poem that Wen Changji wrote to her from the backup compartment of the game, and after the packaging was finished, the pointer had already reached 8 o'clock. She went out quickly and skillfully pedaled the shared bicycle to Daxia Terrace. The director team and photography team are all ready. Si fucking sighed, Director Chin, I did something bad. Director Chin looked solemn, what's the matter, what do you think? Even Si fucking thought it was a bad thing. Director Chin's heart skipped a beat. That's amazing. He panicked, did you hit someone in public? No, it's quite normal, that's. Deputy Director. How is this normal? None. Si fucking's eyes disappeared, it's just that I accidentally asked Wen Changji to write me a poem. Director Chin. Si fucking was a little sad, you just think I'm talking nonsense. How can she not be beaten by the students? Director Chin breathed a sigh of relief, I thought it was something big, Come on, Mr. SI, this is our script for today, see if there is anything you need to change. SI fucking took it? She flipped through it, pondered for a moment, and suddenly said, I have a new idea. She quickly changed the script and recounted all the scenes between her and Wen Changji last night. Mr. SI, it's amazing. How did you come up with it? The screenwriter couldn't help but exclaimed, such a great idea. SI fucking nodded, that's good, let's start. She took out the poem written by Wen Changji from her bag, this is a prop for a while, so please keep it carefully. Mr. Ning, welcome here, Director Chin stepped forward, thanks for your guidance on this episode. Ning Russian is a scholar who specializes in the study of Wen Changji's works, and is a veteran founder in this field. He has been studying Wen Changji's poems and so on for 60 years. The prestige is extremely high. Director Chin specially invited him here to improve the authority of the program and prevent the slightest mistake in history. Ning Russian nodded, his gaze froze, and suddenly froze, staring at the words in the hands of the actor playing Wen Changji. Immediately afterwards, he seemed to have seen something unbelievable, and his body trembled violently. That. Director Chin hurriedly stepped forward and patted Ning Russian on the back. Old Ning, what's wrong with you? Quick, go get a cup of hot water. He helped Ning Russian to sit down in the lounge. Ning Russian recovered after drinking a cup of hot water. He pinched Director Chin's shoulders and took a deep breath. Xiao Chin, let me tell you, based on my judgment, the words in your actor's hands are written by Shiju Wen Changyi. Trust me, it's absolutely true. Director Chin was stunned. What? Ning Russian's tone was sharp, and judging from the extent to which the ink has dried up, it is still freshly baked. Tell me quickly, how did she get it? With a bang, the cup in Director Chin's hand dropped. He said in a daze, You mean, Teacher Si really traveled back more than 1,000 years ago and asked Shiju to write her a poem. As soon as he said those words, his scalp exploded instantly. Today's morning is really early. Is there an early monthly pass? The new month has begun, everyone has guaranteed monthly tickets, please vote for Ching Ching and His Majesty to support, thank you. Countdown to each other. At the end of 22, the book is coming to an end, let's give Ching Ching a good end of the year. I like the character setting of Wen Changji very much. He is the kind of ancient poet and knight-errant who gallops horses. If I have a chance, I may expand it. I am not good at writing, so I won't write poems. After having everything taken away, she returns as a god. Author, Ching Qian. Chapter 793. Wen Changji's characters are self-contained. Like Yin Huang's characters, no one can imitate them. The fonts of the two men are also known as warming the muscles and softening the bones. It's not that no one has copied it in later generations, even I copy it every day. But in the end, they can only be 3-point similar, not exactly the same. Perhaps there are really works that can confuse other scholars with fake works. But Ning Russian is different, no matter how real or fake it is, he can see through it at a glance. 60 years of research is enough for him to be sure that what Si fucking is holding in his hand is definitely Wen Changji's authentic work. But Wen Changji is also a character from more than 1,000 years ago, how could there be a new poem freshly released? Ning Russian couldn't figure it out. However, rule out the impossible, and the remaining results, no matter how incredible, must be true. Director Chin's expression became even more dazed. What Teacher Si said is actually true. What did she say? Russian Ning was impatient, tell me quickly. Director Chin bit the bullet and recounted everything Si fucking said at that time. Those who play literature have rich imagination. Ning Russian accepted it very quickly. He even thought it made perfect sense. Awesome, amazing, Ning Russian exclaimed. Wen Changji seems bold and passionate, but in fact he is difficult to approach, and his poems also have a taste of being too high. Comrade Si Xiao can let Wen Changji write poems for her, which has to be the same as letting Yin Huang have a good time with her. His director Qin couldn't help rubbing his arms. Old Ning, stop talking, I'm going crazy too. Because he thought of the female general of Zhenguo. At that time, there were rumors that Si fucking traveled back in time to make this TV series very consistent with history. Coincidentally, the tombs of Zhang Suanjin and Su Yunchu were also discovered during filming. It's just that netizens said it in a joking tone, and many people agreed, but in fact no one believed it. Who knew it was true? She not only met Wen Changji, but also Zhang Haiping, Zhang Suanjin, and Zhang Zheyu. Director Qin's body couldn't help trembling, even his fingertips seemed to be electrified, and his heart almost exploded. If Ning Russian hadn't been able to judge Wen Changji's handwriting, who would have believed it? Let's go. Ning Russian smiled. Go and see this shooting, I must have a good chat with her. The footsteps of both of them were a little fluttering, so they came to the scene and sat down. Filming has begun. Daxia TV provided sufficient funds for the variety show Great Xia Treasure, and each frame was required according to the texture of the movie. Wen Changji's actor is a young actor of the new generation. Appearance, body, and temperament are excellent. Okay, Ning Russian clapped his hands and said excitedly, the actor has figured out Wen Changji's character very well, and the lines of the script are also very good. Xiao Qin, I haven't seen you for a few years. You have made great progress. You think highly of me. Director Qin gave a bitter smile. This script was written by teacher Si, and the actors were also trained by her. I can be regarded as a soy sauce director. Ning Russian stroked his beard, and said in a low voice, Xiao Qin, believe it or not, this is definitely what happened when she met Wen Changji. Anyway, I believe it. The two looked at each other, and they became more and more sure that Si fucking had definitely crossed over. They couldn't contain their excitement. The recording of this episode was extremely smooth. It took only 4 hours to complete the 2-hour variety show. All in one go. Si fucking took the tissue in Sang Yanking's hand and wiped his sweat. Turning around, he found that Director Qin and an old man were staring straight at her with green eyes. Si fucking paused, and said tactfully, Director Qin, don't look at me like this, I will think you are going to eat me. Director Qin, it's a good thing if you don't blow my heart apart. This time it really blew him up. Come, Comrade Si Xiao, Ning Russian said with a smile, let's talk about your performance today. Russian Ning and Gu Huiyan belonged to the same generation, and Si fucking had also heard Gu Huiyan mention it. She nodded, Mr. Ning, please. The two entered the living room and closed the door. Ning Russian took a deep breath. Fu Qing, actually you have really time traveled, haven't you? Si fucking's expression remained unchanged, his eyebrows were raised. Why did Ning Lao make such a statement? You hide it very well. Even if you tell it openly, no one will believe you. Ning Russian smiled, and he was sure of winning. I'm not talented. I've only studied Wen Changji in my life. This poem used as a prop is actually Wen Changji's authentic work, am I right? Even if you deny it, I still agree with my idea. Si fucking was silent for a moment, then smiled, Old Ning, you are really amazing. Boom. Even though it has been guessed and confirmed, the shock is far less than hearing Si fucking admit it personally. Ning Russian's body trembled violently. You. Because of the rules of the game system, Si fucking didn't go deep into the conversation. Sorry, I can't say. It's nothing to say, you don't need to say it, and I will never say it outside. Russian Ning tried his best to calm down his beating heart. You have made a contribution to the great Xia culture. Every poem by Wen Changji is a treasure of Daxia. Si fucking said in a low voice, it's what I should do. Okay, Ning Russian murmured, can you still go back and see him? Si fucking didn't answer, but raised his eyebrows again. What does Ning Lao think? Ning Russian already understood. I also asked Comrade Si Xiao to help me relay some questions. Si fucking nodded. Old Ning, but it's okay to say, I can try. Outside the lounge, Yu Zion came by pinching. Mr. Yu Director Chin greeted him when he saw him. Teacher Si is chatting with old Mr. Ning Russian. Please sit down first, you have to wait for a while. No hurry, Yu Zion smiled lightly. I just happen to have something to talk to Director Chin about. Director Chin's heart skipped a beat again. Mr. Yu, please tell me. Yu Zion half closed her eyes, and smiled slightly. I would like to suggest that the historical figures in the next issue can choose Yin Huang, and I will act with her. Director Chin was taken aback. Mr. Yu. Could it be that this Mr. Yu also traveled to the past? Possible. Director Chin found that since his worldview completely collapsed, he can accept even outrageous things. Director Chin, don't worry, Yu Zion said lightly, I won't let you down. Where is it? I'm just surprised. It's really great that Mr. Yu can make a guest appearance. Director Chin smiled. Then I will trouble you. Yu Zion nodded. What are you talking about? Si fucking opened the door of the lounge, narrowing his eyes. Are you saying something bad behind my back? Director Chin was shocked. Absolutely not. Yu Zion took the girl's hand and touched her head. Ching ching, don't scare others. Si fucking stuffed his hand into his palm skillfully, and lazily waved the other hand. Director Chin, let's go first, don't talk about some things. Director Chin subconsciously stood up straight and stood at attention. Mr. Si, let's go. After the two left, he breathed a sigh of relief. One big Buddha was enough, but facing two big Buddhas, he couldn't breathe at all. Ning Russian only felt that Yu Zion's temperament was extraordinary, so he couldn't help asking, Xiao Qin, who is that gentleman? It's Teacher C's boyfriend, and he will play the role of Yin Huang in the next episode. Director Qin said in a low voice. Mr. Si must have met Yin Huang if he could travel back and talk to Wen Changji. No wonder she is Yin Huang, the Emperor's poison way. Who wouldn't be confused after meeting Yin Huang himself? I can finally understand. Seeing God of War with his own eyes, and talking with Shiju, is simply the pinnacle of life. Director Qin was very envious. Confucian Ning didn't quite understand popular vocabulary, so he asked modestly, Du Wei. I just like Yin Huang, and I will remain steadfast for 100 years, Director Qin said, so I think that except for Mr. Yu, everyone else will be beaten to death by Mr. Si. He has already predicted what kind of big wave will be set off around the world when the 5th issue is released. On the other side, the Heaven and Earth Alliance. Gu Huiyan called Si fucking disciple. I read the official website notice that the 3rd issue of Great Summer Treasure will be released, and I will definitely watch it carefully as a teacher. He rubbed his hands. So can you tell me who is the character in this issue? Si fucking didn't hide it from him. Teacher, it's Wen Changji. Poetry. Gu Huiyan was overjoyed. Okay, Wen Changji also has a lot of fans. If this issue is synchronized globally, it will definitely make our Daxia poetry flourish and let them see my midsummer period again. Si fucking hesitated for a moment, but still whispered, Teacher, you haven't found Wen Changji's poems, have you? Gu Huiyan didn't understand, so he answered, it's been 10 years since Wen Changji's last poem was discovered. Oh, what a pity, he wrote thousands of poems, only a little over 1,000 have been handed down to this day, and many of them have disappeared in the long river of history. Si fucking breathed a sigh of relief. That's good. After the call ended, Gu Huiyan happily ran to Moments to collect likes. He wants to change to a cup of milk tea to celebrate. At this moment, the door of the office was knocked open. Gu, Mr. Gu, something serious happened. The middle-aged man ran out in a panic. Let's send it. Gu Huiyan pushed his glasses. What happened? What does it look like in a panic? He reprimanded severely on his face. and then quietly put the phone away. He is collecting likes for milk tea, but his subordinates can't see him. Gu, Mr. Gu, this is not an ordinary event. The middle-aged man took a few breaths and said quickly, just now, our people discovered Wen Changji's authentic work. After multiple appraisals, it is a poem that has never been included in the collection of poems. There are a total of 384 poems. According to his poetry style, it should be an early poem written 700 years ago in the lunar calendar. It is a miracle, Mr. Gu. Gu Huiyan slammed his hand on the table, his eyes widened. What did you say? Thank you very much for your support, and the second update has come early. At the beginning of the month, I will continue to ask Ching Ching for a guaranteed monthly ticket. Wow, it's almost 400, give Ching Ching a break. Ching Ching, too bad, I still have to be hunted down by the student party, smiley face. The moose who are going to school, sharpen their knives to show their idols. When it was learned that Yin Huang himself played the role of Queen Yin. Director Qin, me TM. Director Qin found out that there are always more outrageous things waiting for him. 2333. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After having everything taken away, she returns as a god. Author, Qing Qian. Chapter 794. According to historians' speculation, Wen Changji wrote thousands of poems in his lifetime. 2/3 of it is improvisation. This has led to the number of lost poems far exceeding that of other poets. Even the Tiandameng, which is responsible for protecting the traditional culture of Daxia, can hardly pass on his poems completely. Suddenly discovered 384 poems. Gu Huiyan hurriedly grabbed the middle-aged man's shoulder. Quick, where are you? Take me there. It's in the ruins of the imperial palace, the middle-aged man stammered. It seems to have popped up out of nowhere, but this time it's on silk, and he actually knew to save it in advance. Confucian Ning and a group of scholars who studied Wen Changji found that Wen Changji was wild and unrestrained. His early poems are as bold and grand as he is. According to historical records, after Wen Changji finished writing his poems, he would even throw them directly into the lake, letting his poems drift with the wind. This also leads to a greater loss of poetry. Gu Huiyan was angry that he didn't know how to protect his works. Could it be that Wen Changji writes 2 sheets every time? In any case, this is a new archaeological discovery. Gu Huiyan rushed out with the middle-aged man, and at the same time grabbed the phone to announce the good news to Sci-fi teacher. What a great thing, what a great thing. You have made a great contribution. You are simply a koi. You photographed the female general of Zhenguo, and we found the tombs of Zhang Zheyu and Zhang Suanjin. You took Wen Changji, and we found Wen Changji's poems again. The more Gu Huiyan said, the more excited he became. Teacher, promise me, next time you must take pictures of Emperor Yin, maybe you will find Emperor Yin's tomb. Ever since Sci-fi came into contact with ancient film and television dramas and variety shows, the achievements of Tiandameng have continued. Once is a coincidence, twice. It can't be his apprentice who wears it back and tells Wen Changji, you should keep your poems properly. But this kind of thing is too mysterious. Gu Huiyan just thought about it, and didn't take it seriously. In the car. After listening to Gu Huiyan's words, Sci-fi. Her eyes lost their brilliance, and she leaned back on the seat, like a salted fish without a dream in life. Yu Zian parked the car, saw her like this, leaned over and hugged her. What's wrong? It's nothing. Sci-fi sighed, I just thought I might be hunted down by fans. Yu Zian twitched her eyebrows and smiled. How could that be? It will definitely. Sci-fi held his head. Just now the teacher called me and said that he found Wen Changji's new poems. There are more than 300 poems, and he praised me as a koi. She hardened her fist. It's fine to keep one song, why do you keep so many? Uzian's eyes suddenly darkened. He was silent for a moment, then suddenly said with a smile that was not a smile, the girl is indeed a koi, so you can shoot whatever you want. I fucking blinked. I hope that when the news is announced, netizens can calm down. The two get out of the car. Uzian paused, and answered the phone, well, okay, I see. Fu tilted his head back, ninth brother. I can't accompany you at night. Uzian raised his hand and rubbed his head, there is something wrong with Lanja Mountain in Nanzhou, I'll go there. Is it the mountain protection formation? Fucking's expression changed slightly, I'll go with you. Small things, don't worry. Uzian bent down, and lightly touched the tip of her nose, I will be back soon. Fucking whispered, then you can only watch the recordings. I will make time to watch the live broadcast. Uzian smiled slightly, I will also watch the recorded broadcast several times, little koi. The last three words carry a certain significance. He took her into the villa and drove away by himself. Great summer treasure takes the form of recording and broadcasting. Before the global simultaneous release, the program group will keep the broadcast content confidential. Therefore, only after the broadcast, the characters of the new issue will be revealed. At 8 p.m., it will be screened simultaneously on Daxia channel and IFTV. The audience has already sat in front of the screen and prepared, and they are all looking forward to it. Who is who in this issue? Will it be Zhang Ziyu? I'm looking forward to it. The treasures of the Great Xia have been passed down through the ages. Facing the camera, Fucking said, I am Fucking, and I will lead you to explore the 5,000-year history of the Great Xia. Please come with me to this prosperous age of the Great Xia. After saying this, the screen suddenly went dark. The only light is a lamp in the girl's hand. As she walked, the lights gradually illuminated the surrounding scenery. Golden light clears the way, pavilions and pavilions. The waist of the corridor is unadorned, and the eaves and teeth are pecked high. Wait, is this Yong'an City, Yinhuang? No, no, this is not the palace of Emperor Yinhuang, it is even more splendid, it should be after Emperor Yinhuang. Until the audience finally saw the shaggy man drinking alone by the pond. The pride is sparse, and the body is unrestrained. As soon as this image came out, everyone reacted. Poetry is extremely warm and long-changing. Yinhuang's first life, Shiji's second life, both are my male gods. The appearance of Wen Changji represented the peak of poetry in the Great Xia dynasty. The Wen school he founded was highly praised by many descendants. He has many fans at home and abroad. Yinhuang represents the spirit and belief of the Great Xia dynasty, while Wen Changji is the soul of poetry. Although I like Wen Changji's poems, I really don't want to memorize them, it's too difficult. Last year, I wrote silently for the high-level archaeological poems and essays. I took 6 questions in the test, and 3 of them were all his works. I want to cry. What you can see now is only 1/5 of his works, how could he be so prolific? This is a dialogue across time and space. But the method used in the 3rd issue is completely different from the first 2. Fucking, who represents today's people, directly revealed his identity, and talked with Wen Changji about the past and the present. Later, when Fucking said that history cannot be changed, the audience watched Wen Changji drink a pot of wine, and suddenly burst out laughing. I'll make a bet with you to see if I can change history. Today, I will write a poem in your name. If I can change history, then thousands of years later, in the school you mentioned, there will be an extra poem I wrote for you. If you can't, it won't affect anything. He laughed wantonly. Future man, do you dare to bet with me? Boom. Thunder suddenly sounded, and the wind came suddenly, reflecting the fireworks on the horizon, blooming in full bloom. It seems that the whole world is listening to this bet at this moment. Wow, goosebumps. Holy shit, made Wen Changji come alive, who wrote the lines, wow. The effect of a variety show is close to that of a movie. It's too real. Daxia TV, you have a lot of broadcasts, you deserve it. Wait, don't write poetry, stop, drink as long as you drink, why write poetry? Calm down, although the acting is very real, it's still a variety show, we won't have new poems to memorize. On the screen, the man is drinking and composing poems, very carefree. This is Daxia, the pinnacle of poetry. And when I heard Wen Changji say, I have 3 regrets in this life, the first regret is that I was born at an untimely time, not being able to go out with Emperor Yin and killing the quartet, even Yu Zion, who had just got off the plane and was watching in front of the screen, also they were all slightly shocked. His eyes are darker. On the side, the elder of the Feng family who accompanied him looked solemn. Mr. Wen is indeed a fan of His Majesty, so it is possible for him to say such a thing. Mrs. I really treats this variety show with heart. After all, in that era, how many people did not respect Emperor Yin? Yu Zion thought for a moment, then said softly, I've seen him. The elder of the Feng family lifted his expression. At that time, he was still very young, and his parents took him to Ji's house, hoping to win a good fortune. Yu Zion's eyes flashed with the color of long-term memories, a very smart child, I have a very good impression of him. Deep. The elder of the Feng family sighed, then if he had been born 20 years earlier, he might have gone to the battlefield with His Majesty. Yu Zion chuckled lightly, and said lightly, everyone has his own aspirations. I believe that if he really goes to the battlefield, he must be a great general guarding one side, but then there are not so many poems. The elder of the Feng family is a Yin Huang, Your Majesty's words are true. Yu Zion glanced at him. The elder of the Feng family immediately changed his words, Mr. Yu, come here. He quietly wiped his sweat. Sure enough, the heart of the emperor, the needle of the sea. Being alone with Yin Huang, his little heart couldn't bear it. The whole world was shocked by this episode. The 5,000-year history and culture of Daxia is unfolding in front of international friends one after another. Wen Changji lived in the era when the great Xia dynasty opened its doors and attracted countless envoys to study in Yong'an, the capital city. It also proved once again that in the past 5,000 years, the duchies of the western continent have been changed countless times, and only Daxia is standing tall. Daxia's luck is gradually recovering and gathering more. And at this moment, a piece of news instantly detonated the entire network. Hashtag Wen Changji Authentic Present World Hashtag 384 Poems by Wen Changji Hashtag The Gift of History to Daxia Hashtag Netizens. Everyone was stunned. And many more? What's the situation? I've just finished watching the 4th episode of Great Summer Treasure, and I'm still feeling that the program group's recording technique is very ingenious. Did you really find Wen Changji's new poem when you turned around? Student, the clown is actually myself. If you memorize more than 300 poems, you will die. Si fucking is a god, right? How did you act and what did you do? Some people are happy and some are worried. Gu Huiyan is hurrying up and sending people to protect the newly discovered poems and transcribe the above contents in the poetry collection. Old Gu, something serious has happened again. The middle-aged man looked solemn. There is another poem, this poem, we haven't released it to the public, and you need to judge it yourself. What's wrong? Gu Huiyan pushed his glasses. I'm not sure it was written by Wen Changji. No, on the contrary, it was definitely written by him, because... The middle-aged man swallowed with difficulty, with a complex expression, you can see it when you read it. Gu Huiyan put on his gloves, and carefully unfolded the scroll for a look. 2 words were engraved on it. Fu tilt. Good morning. Another difficult day because my aunt was paralyzed in bed in pain. Tat. Just a few dozen votes to 500. Rush. Everyone vote for Ching Ching. I will continue to write the second update, See you in the afternoon. After having everything taken away, she returns as a god. Author, Qing Qian. Chapter 795. Boom. It was as if a thunder fell beside his ears, blasting Gu Huiyan's mind, and it instantly became blank. He almost lost his grip on the scroll in his hand, and lost his voice. This is. The middle-aged man stammered, Gu Lao, you also watched yesterday's Great Xia Treasure. Didn't Wen Changji on the show just say that he wanted to write a poem in the name of Miss Si? Then we discovered this poem, isn't it a coincidence? Although the show did not shoot Wen Changji's specific poetry writing scene, the audience could clearly hear what the actor said. Today, I will write a poem in your name. If I can change history, such a poem will appear in the school you mentioned thousands of years later, and it will not affect anything. When watching the show, when Gu Huiyan heard these words, he only felt his scalp tingling. These two lines clearly portray Wen Changji's rebellious and dissolute character. He disobeyed God and did not believe in fate. Only then will you say what you want to gamble with history. But now, in the end, there was such a poem in history, and it was only discovered now. Or has reality influenced history? Gu Huiyan felt that his brain was completely insufficient. The middle-aged man is also very big-headed. President, this poem has not been released to the public. I am afraid that if it is released, it will cause confusion. We believe in science, but some people don't believe it. The name Sci-fi was originally taken from the phrase Fu building will fall. This sentence is also the favorite sentence used by ancient literati. Wen Changji also wrote, beyond reproach. But at this point in time, the name of this poem will definitely cause an explosion. It really can't be announced. After Gu Huiyan was shocked, his expression became more serious. Who else saw the name of this poem except you? No more. The middle-aged man shook his head. I found it and it was kept separately. It seems that Shiju also attaches great importance to this poem. Gu Huiyan tapped his head and managed to calm down a bit. Okay, don't tell the public about this matter. It is probably a coincidence. I will contact several other companies to discuss it first. He was used to strong winds and waves all his life, but he had never seen such a stormy sea. At this time, Sci-fi had just returned to the villa. While watching online comments on the new issue of Great Summer Treasure, she happily interacted with fans. Until I received a call from Gu Huiyan. Sci-fi had predicted this until 384 new poems appeared in the world. She said seriously, teacher, it must be a coincidence. Gu Huiyan nodded, I think so too, but I still can't announce it for the time being, or you will be arrested. Thank you teacher. Sci-fi quickly pressed the phone, thinking, it's better for the teacher to lie. She turned off the computer, got up and went to the game cabin. The flow speed in ancient times is completely different from that in reality. It has been 3 months since the Great Xia dynasty came here. When I saw Wen Changji again, it was the time when the flowers bloomed in the warmth of spring. He is boating on the river to watch the moon. Such a leisurely life makes Sci-fi, a social animal, very envious. Wen Changji propped up the oar in his hand. Future man, you are really elusive. Meet you again, Mr. Wen. Sci-fi slightly nodded at him. Mr. Wen is really amazing. Wen Changji was stunned for a moment, and then laughed out loud. You can say that. It seems that this round was won by me, an ancient man. Very good, very good. He laughed for a long time before he stopped. After stopping, the young Shiju looked up at the moon, and said indifferently, this also shows that my role in history is minimal. Admitting this is also very difficult for Wen Changji, who is naturally conceited. He lowered his head, looking extremely lonely. Mr. Wen. Sci-fi called him suddenly. Wen Changji raised his head and laughed again. Why, you want to make a bet with me again? Mr. Wen. Sci-fi looked serious. If it is said that His Majesty protected Daxia's rivers and mountains, then you are inheriting Daxia's culture. Wen Changji's body trembled, and his pupils shrank slightly. Sage Wen has 3,000 disciples, so do you know that there are more than 3,000 disciples studying your poems? How many future generations have you awakened with your poems? I smiled slightly. There are hundreds of millions of people in the 5 prefectures of Great Xia. How can memorizing your rafting on the river have no effect at all? Wen Changji is proud. He is a poet who was exiled from the immortals, and he is not bound by the world. These words moved Wen Changji's heart. What the young master said today made me feel deeply. Wen Changji tidied up his clothes and cupped his fists at her. I have never dared to stand shoulder to shoulder with Emperor Yin, and I just want to go out with him. It turned out that he also made such a great contribution to Daxia. I said softly, you are all very powerful. Come on, young master. Wen Changji invited her to sit down. This is a good wine I got recently, let's drink it with you. Still not. What if she really beat Shiju to death? Wen Changji supported his head. Young master, are you looking down on me? It's just that I'm not good at drinking. I thought for a while. I know an elder who is a loyal fan of yours and has been studying your poems for 60 years. Mr. Wen, please allow me to bring your wine to him. Naturally, this good wine should be drunk by people who understand it. Oh, Wen Changji raised his eyebrows, and then he let go. Okay, then you take this wine back. You said you have studied it for 60 years. Shiju couldn't help being surprised by this number. Of course I raised his eyebrows and smiled. There is also a team of scholars who specialize in studying you. Wen Changji breathed a sigh of relief. This feeling is really wonderful. He took a jug of wine and handed it to Si put it away. If my son is a girl, I'll make you my confidant no matter what I say. Wen Changji rested his head on his arms, looking very lazy, but it's fine if you're a boy, I don't have this hobby. Si was choked. She said with a blank face, Mr. Wen, you have made me hated by many people. Oh, Wen Changji blinked, are you talking about the students in the school? Since it is the inheritance of Daxia culture, how can you not recite more poems? It is a good thing to recite more. Si you must not write any more. Ha 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 ha, Wen Changji laughed loudly again, you are really interesting. Okay, the bet with you has also come into effect, and I will not deliberately violate history again. For the rest, let it go with the flow, I will go away by boat today. As the boat drifted away, the voice of the man reciting poems lingered in the air for a long time. At 3:30 in the morning, Si got up from the game cabin. It was dark outside, but the moonlight was bright. Si looked at the moonlight outside the window and sighed softly. It's a pity that when Yin Huang was here, the game system restricted her too much. She couldn't say anything, and she couldn't do anything. If possible, she would also like to chat with him about today, more than 1,000 years later. The dream she let him have was all true. After going through a decadent period, Daxia finally became stronger again. But she has nothing to do. Si rubbed his head, climbed onto the bed, and soon fell asleep again. The next day, early in the morning, the explosive news of Wen Changji is still hanging on major social forums around the world. Mo Yan, who was accompanying Yu Xian on official business in Nanzhou, smiled gently, Your Majesty, Miss Si is indeed a koi. Yu Xian smiled softly, she is not just a koi. Mo Yan when recalled Yu Xian once asked him whether people can travel through, his eyes moved. Even if once or twice is a coincidence, so is 3 or 4 times. What about 5 or 6 times? Just then, the phone rang. From Tiandameng. Mo Yanwen picked it up, old Gu. Gu Huiyan recounted yesterday's big discovery. Yes, okay, I understand. The more Mo Yanwen listened, the more dignified his expression became. How many people still know about this matter? Only Mr. Gu and your assistant. Okay, we must not let more people know about it, otherwise there will be a big mess. After the call was over, he let out a slow breath. Even though he was as calm as Mo Yanwen, his body couldn't help but tremble at this moment. It was also the first time Yu Zian saw him like this, raised her eyes and asked, "What's the matter?" In the news of the Heaven and Earth League, in addition to the 384 new poems, they also found another poem, which was engraved on bamboo slips. Mo Yanwen took a deep breath. The poem is called Fu Cheng. The pen in Yu Zian's hand stopped suddenly. With a click, it landed on the paper, drawing a long mark. The document was instantly destroyed. Mo Yan calmed down a bit before speaking again. "Your Majesty, all your doubts can now be established. At the beginning of the month, I will vigorously ask for a monthly ticket. Go, 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 600 is coming soon, everyone is really awesome." His Majesty has confirmed that Ching Ching can travel through but nothing else. This time King King's daughter will definitely win. Although the main line is relatively heavy, what I like most about this book is the place where ancient and modern collide, and the writing is very exciting. Although it is a face-slapping article, I still hope to bring you a refreshing plot. After having everything taken away, she returns as a god. Author, Qing Qian. Chapter 796. Mo Yanwen himself didn't believe the sentence when he said it. But the facts are before our eyes. No matter how unbelievable it is the truth. Yu Zian looked at the ink marks on the document. After a long silence, he smiled slightly. "Yes, sure." Mo Yanwen said softly, "Miss Si really traveled to ancient times in some way, so that she could find the Mo family's lost hidden weapon diagrams. I was wondering at that time how there could be diagrams in that place." Yes, Yu Zian's smile deepened. She should have really met Wen Changji. The dialogues and scenes on the show are what she has actually experienced. It is not reality that affects history, but history as it should be. Therefore, a large number of Wen Changji's poems have been handed down, adding a rich and colorful touch to Daxia culture. These were all done by Si fucking. Mo Yanwen exhaled slowly and asked a very important question with great difficulty. "Since Miss Si has gone to ancient times, has she also met His Majesty?" Hearing this, Yu Zian was silent for a moment, smiled and sighed. "If I had seen her, I would never forget her. A girl like her." Because he competes all year round and has never held a draft, there are very few women in his impression. Those who can be counted are the late Empress who abandoned him, and Zhang Zheyu who had already decided to go to the battlefield at a young age. In addition, he could not find a third person of the opposite sex in his previous life. It was also because when he was Emperor Yin, he had his own grand plans and ambitions. Indeed, besides pacifying the 5 states of Daxia, he was not interested in expelling the Tartars. Emperor Yin does not need any personal feelings. Mo Yanwen nodded, "But Your Majesty, there is no need to regret. At least Miss Si will always be by your side in this life, and Miss Si has no regrets. I would rather she never saw me when she went back to the past." Yu Zian held her head and said lightly, "I will always look bad when I die." Emperor Yin was also extremely proud. He would never allow his bones to be eroded by the loess, so he chose to burn himself. His fate is decided by himself. Yu Zian stood up. "Yanwen, come with me for a walk." Mo Yanwen nodded and followed him. Spring returns to the earth in March, and the weather in the coastal areas of Nanzhou is gradually getting warmer. The excited chatter of pedestrians reached their ears. "Baby Ching Ching is just like a koi carp. Whatever you do will come to you. I hope that Daxia Treasures will publish an issue of Emperor Yin, and maybe we can find something related to Emperor Yin. Let's go to the program team's Weibo and make a suggestion. I guess there must be one. Baby Ching Ching is Yin Huang Duwei. Wasn't there a voice in the female general of the kingdom at that time? Mo Yan smiled warmly. It seems that many people are looking forward to His Majesty's appearance. Yu Xian tapped her palms and said, that poem must not be announced to the outside world and must be kept strictly confidential. There was a vague flash of sharpness in his eyebrows, revealing the cold and cruel killing that belonged to Emperor Yin. Whether it is the loss of the Mahist family's hidden weapons or the prophecy of the Ji family's demise, they can all be traced back to one point. Some people have been targeting Daxia in order to plunder and destroy Daxia's luck. Even if the poem Fuqing is released, netizens will only feel that it is a coincidence, making Daxia treasure even more popular. But the revenge organization is different. They may not think of time travel. As for the revenge organization, they would rather kill 10,000 by mistake than let one go. Mo Yanwen looked serious. Yes, President Gu has the same idea. He wants to wait a few years before releasing the poems. Yu Xian hummed lightly. He tore up the destroyed documents and threw them into the trash can, smelling the light fruity aroma. He pondered for a moment, lowered his head, and typed a line of words on his phone. Boyfriend who was released from prison, the loquats from Nanzhou are ripe. I'll bring you some when I go back. Is there anything else you want? The other party responded quickly. Probably just in her free time. Sci-fi, you can buy these online. It'll be nice if you come back. A very simple sentence without any fancy elaboration. But it made Yu Xian's body and mind shake slightly. In his previous life, he fought day and night for years because he had no worries. But now it's different. He knew that when he was outside, there was always someone at home waiting for him to come back. No matter how late he goes back, there will always be a bright light staying for him. His expression softened and he replied with one word. Boyfriend released from prison, okay. At the same time, somewhere on Earth, the headquarters of revenge. In the huge room, everyone was silent. The young man sat at the end of the long table and glanced at the people present indifferently. What happened in the past few days has made all our years of hard work come to nothing. The revenge organization is stationed in Free Continent and does not care about other continents, except for the Daxia Empire. Daxia treasures became popular all over the world. In addition, the Tiandi League discovered Wen Changji's new poems, which set off an international wave of studying Xia poetry. In the Western continent, Dongsang and other places, various Daxia colleges were even established with the help of the Heaven and Earth Alliance. Bactrian culture and language began to be popularized around the world. Even if the young man doesn't know much about luck, he knows that with the re-emergence of Daxia, Daxia's luck is constantly gathering, even reaching a peak that was not even reached during the Emperor Yin's period. This is something they don't want to see. Our people came back and said that Daxia seemed to have felt the crisis some time ago and had established large formations around the major dragon veins. An old man shook his head. It's difficult to handle. Another middle-aged man said, we can only ask Valencia to take action. She can look like anyone and can sneak in. The young man nodded slightly. Valencia has been inconvenient to go out in recent days. People from the Yin family and Free Continent are looking for her. The new head of the Yin family. He frowned. How could an evolver enter the entertainment industry among ordinary people? Sir, we directly ask for instructions from Eternal Life and ask them to send everyone out to kill this Si. A look of cruelty flashed across the middle-aged man's eyes. No matter how powerful she is it possible that she can still compare to Eternal Life, people from mainland China? No, we can't kill her now, the young man said calmly. She has gathered so much luck for Daxia, and she also carries a lot of it. If we kill her, these lucks will not be used by us. What do you mean? We will defeat her in one fell swoop at the global art and cultural performance and break her and Daxia's luck, the young man snorted. She doesn't know that this competition is meant to lure her there. The middle-aged man's expression brightened. You are still too thoughtful, I am too impatient. Okay, the young man waved his hand. Let's continue to prepare for the arrival of the holy day. It's time to go to eternity and go to eternity, and we'll bother several elders to continue researching new drugs. Everyone nodded and dispersed. 2 days later, Sci-fi came back from the laboratory. While she was reading, a bag of loquats suddenly appeared in front of her eyes and shook. Sci-fi raised his head. Here someone bent down and hugged her, a little koi that can travel through time. Sci-fi paused and chose to hug the bag of loquats. She turned her head, looked at the man in a dark gray suit, and blinked. You know that too. Gu Huiyan is easy to deceive. After all, her teacher has never even had much contact with evolutionaries. But Yu Xian is different. Although they have only known each other for a short 2 years, they are very compatible in every aspect and have the same mind. The most important thing is that he is not easy to deceive at all. Yes, Yu Xian touched her head. It has troubled me for a long time, and I finally feel at ease. I'm sorry, Sci-fi whispered, there are some things I can't say. The game system does not allow her to actively leak secrets. This time travel system appeared inexplicably, and she didn't know what impact it would have on Daxia. Ching Ching, you don't need to apologize to me. Yu Xian looked into her eyes. I prefer that you can lose your temper with me. You don't need to wrong yourself, okay? Sci-fi raised an eyebrow. Why do you have a tendency to be abused? Yu Xian touched her head. No, it's just you. Let's go. Sci-fi grabbed his wrist, his fox eyes bright. Let's go to Daxia Terrace. Do what? Go scare people. Ning Russian and director Qin were both at Daxia TV, and were still watching Wen Changji's program over and over again. Mr. Ning, Sci-fi said mysteriously, I will treat you to a drink today. When Ning Russian heard this, he flatly refused. Drink? No, I don't drink. Sci-fi let out a sigh and said with regret, this is the wine that Shiju personally gave to me. He also said that he wanted his fans to treat him well. Before she finished speaking, the wine bottle in her hand had been snatched away by Ning Russian. He looked at the wine bottle in his hand, his eyes full of shock. Yes, it is a skill from the Daxia dynasty, but it doesn't match the age. This wine bottle has not experienced 1,000 years of sedimentation. This further proves that Sci-fi brought it back from ancient times. Ning Russian's fingers trembled, and he burst into tears for a while. A miracle, it's really a miracle. Director Qin was so frightened that he dropped the thermos cup in his hand. Oops, his worldview is shattered again. Sci-fi secretly took out another small bottle and gave it to Yu Xian. He lowered his voice and said, drink some too. I'll keep it secretly. Yu Xian frowned. He also suddenly remembered Wen Changji's words about wanting to go on an expedition with him, and smiled, okay. But Russian Ning was reluctant to drink this pot of wine. Who would have thought that one day, he could drink the same wine as Wen Changji? He has no regrets in his life. Ning Russian put the wine pot away very carefully and asked impatiently, Comrade Si, I have a question I don't know whether to ask or not. Have you ever met His Majesty Emperor Yin? Good morning. Your Majesty is sure that Ching Ching can travel through time, but he doesn't know that she is Wei because of the different genders. From everyone's perspective, the characters in the book don't know anything. This time King King's daughter will definitely win first. Waiting for 4 scores. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After having everything taken away, she returns as a god. Author, Qing Qian. Chapter 797. Wen Changji was certainly the subject of his research for 60 years. But who doesn't have admiration for Emperor Yin? Ning Russian is a history buff. He has been reading various history books since he was in elementary school. It's just that history books are just a series of cold words after all. A page turned at random reveals the magnificent lives of many people. Where can I see the impact with my own eyes? I fucking blinked. What do you think? The game system does not allow her to leak the secret. But if others guess it, it has nothing to do with her. You must have met him before. Ning Russian confirmed his words. Xiao Qin said that you like Emperor Yin to the point of unswerving devotion, but you don't know the real His Majesty. I fucking thought for a while and smiled. The majesty of a man who is invincible to anyone, the ambition of 1,000-foot-high cloud. Yu Xian's hand paused imperceptibly, and even trembled slightly. He once again searched his mind for the opposite sex he had met in his previous life. He has always had a good memory. But even among the passers-by she met when she was a young wandering child, no one could match her. Perhaps she had seen him somewhere far away? Just that he never noticed? Yu Xian sighed softly in her heart, and her thoughts couldn't help but start to drift into the distance. What if they had met in his previous life? Even if Yu Xian didn't want to admit it, he had to admit that his previous life was fruitless. If he misses the important matters of his family and country because of his children's affair, that is not him, and it will not be him. He is not the person she regards as the object of admiration. This life is just right. He can step down from the high position of an emperor and become an ordinary person. Feeling the deep gaze of the person next to him, I fucking suddenly said, "Of course, my boyfriend is also very powerful. I like him very much." After saying that, she winked at him again, meaning not to be jealous. Yu Xian was amused by her little moves, and he touched her head. "I know everything." Ning Russian, who was originally excited, couldn't laugh or cry. "Comrade Si, you are really good at holding a bowl of water." Director Qin cleared his throat and said, "Yin Huang, I applied for more funds from Taili this time. It means that we can shoot however we want, and we must do it well. Even if the shooting progress is a little slower, there can never be any mistakes. After all, Emperor Yin was such an important historical figure. He was ranked second and no one dared to jump to the first place." I fucking looked serious. "Of course, I will patiently polish the lines." Director Qin pressed his heart, and was out of breath again. "You polish it, I am of course at ease, you are all. Damn it, why is there such an outrageous thing as time travel in this world? This is even more outrageous than the suspense dramas he directed." I fucking asked with concern, "Director Qin, do you need medicine? I recently upgraded the formula." Director Qin struggled to speak. "Okay, here comes a new batch." I fucking happily reached a deal with him. Director Qin sent her out, held the bottle and breathed a sigh of relief. There should be nothing more outrageous than time travel. The two left Daxia Terrace. On the way, I fucking suddenly said, "Brother Ninth, we don't want to meet each other these days." When Yu Xian heard this, his eyes narrowed, a bit dangerous, but his face remained calm. "Huh. Third senior sister told me that she likes someone with fondness in her eyes. You are my boyfriend. Of course I like you." I fucking raised her eyebrows, "but you are about to play the role of Emperor Yin. I'm afraid I won't be able to do it for a while. If I can't change my role, I must have a sufficient cooling off period." Yu Xian was silent for a moment. "Actually, there is no need to change. Ching ching, you can dash." "No, in order to ensure the smooth filming of the next Yinhuang chapter, we must keep a distance and be strangers these days." I fucking interrupted him coldly, "Otherwise I will be acting opposite you. It's time to break down the character." After saying that, she hugged him again with a smile and comforted him, "Be patient, it will pass soon. I am an actor and I have to be dedicated. I'll make it up to you after the filming is over. You can do whatever you want." Hearing these words, Yu Xian's expression moved slightly. He bent down slightly and was about to say something. Diddy diddy. The car horn sounded at this time, which was very harsh. A car stopped beside the two people. The car door opened and Tan Jingmo got out of the car. He raised his hand and knocked on the car door. It's broad daylight, young lovers, please pay attention to the impact. Si fucking groaned, and hugged Yu Zion's waist tightly. Beiji, I know you are jealous of me. Am I jealous of you? Tan Jingmo laughed angrily. Okay, come here quickly, you called me to take you to the laboratory, and I have to go find senior brother later. Si fucking then let go of his hand and slowly got into the car. Tan Jingmo closed the car door, but he did not get in the car immediately. Instead, he turned to look at Yu Zion. Abandoned, Tan Jingmo raised an eyebrow. Look at it more clearly. She used to be a face control person. She only saved people based on their appearance. It's normal to be abandoned. He was indeed gloating. Yu Zion slowly raised her eyelids and clicked a few times on her phone. Si fucking suddenly pushed open the car door from inside. She was as fierce as a little lion with explosive hair. Tan Jingmo. Don't bully my boyfriend. Tan Jingmo. Very good. Know who to complain to. Tan Jingmo glanced at the man who was still calm and composed, clicked his tongue, and then got in the car. Yu Zion put his hands behind his back and watched the car drive away, his eyes slightly darkened. Before the temptation even started, he was already facing a wifeless sentence. He sighed. It seems that I still have to hide it from her. Now is not a good time. When you may lose your girlfriend, nothing seems important. So, His Majesty Emperor Yin began to use the military skills he had learned all his life to think about how to make his girlfriend accept him well. Here, Tan Jingmo returned to the Yin family after sending Si fucking to the laboratory. Tsukimi and Yuan Mingqi are also back. Yunying is also there. The top combat forces at the top of the clouds gathered together once again. I've been searching for a week, but I still can't find Valencia. Yu Jian frowned. It's really strange. Where did he hide? It's the same as the person who stole the little junior sister's luck. Yuan Mingqi said solemnly. My tracking talisman can't locate it. Yunying's eyebrows moved, but he said nothing. Senior brother, since you are back, we can also welcome our junior sister back to the master. Yu Jian turned around. The enemies we will face in the future will be too huge, I'm afraid. It's not the time yet. Yunying shook his head lightly. I said, without my permission, the junior sister cannot return to the master's door. Tan Jingmo's expression changed slightly. Senior brother, what do you mean? Is there really a ghost in our school? Yunying smiled coldly. Who knows? Several senior brothers and sisters were shocked in their hearts. The only ones who have remained in the school are Master Yunjin, the 7th child Zisu and the 8th child Meng Suanke. These 3 people. Yunying knocked on the table lightly. The first priority is to protect the junior sister. If even she is, things will be bad. Some words were not said. His brows were also furrowed. Obviously he was stuck in a difficult problem. This is inevitable. Yu Jian nodded. We must not let them hurt our little junior sister again. Yunying nodded and said in a calm voice, that international art performance competition cheered me up in advance. All the brothers and sisters came down. In the evening, Lang Xian personally escorted Si fucking back to the villa. The pickup and drop-off vehicle is also the most advanced vehicle on the cloud. Integrate attack and defense systems into one. Si fucking exercised for a while and began to write the lines for the Emperor Yin chapter of The Treasure of Daxia. She ran to the 2nd floor. There are many history books in Yu Zion's study, and there are also some books that Si fucking repurchased, all of which are placed on the bookshelf. She stood on the shelf to pick up books from a high place, but inadvertently touched a scroll placed next to the shelf. Si fucking jumped down and lowered his head. What's this? When did an extra painting appear? Si fucking glanced at the lower left corner and found Yu Zion's seal. She mused. It turned out to be a painting drawn by my boyfriend. You can squeeze it better in the future. You can make money if you have many skills, but don't overwhelm yourself. Sci-fi was about to pick it up and put it away when a gust of wind blew by and the scroll was completely blown away. She had no intention of seeing the specific content of the painting. But his attention was also attracted by a few random strokes drawn by Uzion. The landscape occupies the vast majority, but it only serves as a backdrop for the young man in the center of the picture. For those who know how to look at it, this painting is definitely the work of everyone and is worth tens of millions. But this time Sci-fi had no time to pay attention to money. The moment she saw the boy in the painting, her breathing quickened. The boy also wrote a poem next to it. It was the sentence she often read written by Uzion. How can I say that I have no clothes, but I share the same robe with you? This is her. It fell. Come and get a monthly ticket to make horse racing more intense. After a long time, I don't know how long later. Tanjingmo, have you met Emperor Yin? Ching Ching, I slept with him. Tanjingmo. After having everything taken away, she returns as a god. Author, Ching Qian. Chapter 798. The cherry blossoms are raining, and among the mountains and streams, the boy stands under a tree and looks to the north. Because the time and times of traveling back to the great Xia dynasty are precious, Sci-fi is also deeply impressed by every minute and every second she spends with Yin Huang. She remembered the suit she was wearing, and she remembered the view. This is on the way back to Yong'an City from Nanzhou. Another victorious team returned to the city. It was April, and the cherry blossoms were in full bloom on the road. The army stopped to refresh, and she went to the lake to fetch water. When she came back, she saw the young emperor leaning against the tree, painting. She glanced at it inadvertently, and there was her in the painting. It was exactly the same layout as the painting she saw now. But that painting didn't end up staying. Likewise, she has no trace in history. She has been to many museums and tombs, but has not seen any written descriptions of her, let alone paintings. Occasionally, Sci-fi would think that perhaps the game system erased her existence to prevent her from changing history, which is justifiable. But sometimes, it is still a little sad. No one remembers her. Others get the stories of that era through history books, but she is the fact that she has really experienced it. She empathizes more than anyone else. Sci-fi's hand holding the painting scroll was even tighter, his eyes were dazed, and tears gathered little by little. She has not been forgotten. Someone still remembers her. This person is still Emperor Yin. At this moment, many words that Uzion had said quickly rang in her ears again. Bring the girl here to avoid it. In the beginning, he always called her by such ancient words, because he came from ancient times. You are right, in today's great Xia, everyone is like a dragon and a phoenix, and they will take off in a few days. If Emperor Yin can see it, even if it is only 27 years, he will have no regrets. It's no wonder that after she said those words, his attitude towards her changed drastically, and everything was very good to her. It seems that you really like him, but what you know about him now is only as recorded in the history books, so how do you know what kind of person he is? Yin Huang is also an ordinary person, he is a human being, not a god. Yes, he should be happy to see today. He has no grave. Because he was the one who burned himself out with a big fire, and let her scatter his ashes in the rivers, seas, and lakes, so naturally there is no grave. These words Uzion once said, now recalling them again, have completely different meanings from when they first heard them. He said it as Yin Huang at that time, but she only thought that he was a fan of Yin Huang just like her. She had doubts, and finally gave up because of lack of logic and no evidence. She can be reborn 3 years later. But the time span of 1,500 years is too long after all, and the soul has completely dissipated in the world. But this painting completely breaks all correct logic. Hua Hua told her that Yin Huang was not only there, but also remembered her. It turned out that he had been by her side all the time. Not only did he come back to life, but he also witnessed the prosperity of the mountains and rivers 1,500 years later. Pata. Tears suddenly flowed down the corners of the eyes and dripped onto the scroll, wetting the words "no clothes," and soon the ink marks were smudged. Sci-fucking wiped his eyes carelessly. She raised her head slightly, trying to force back the tears, but more tears flowed. She chose the name Wei after reading the poem he wrote. But he has been writing this poem because of her name. He remembered her, and was impressed. Her presence is also meaningful. Thinking of this, Sci-fucking's tears flowed even more fiercely. After half an hour, she tried to calm herself down. She rolled the painting back up and put it in its original position. But a few minutes later, she shrank into a small ball, and the tears continued to flow. Yuan Mingqi and Yu Ejian happened to come over at this time, bringing some equipment to Sci-fucking. Yuan Mingqi knocked on the door. "Junior sister, are you there?" The door is opened. Yuan Mingqi was shocked. The girl raised her head, her eyes dim with tears. "Fifth senior brother." Yuan Mingqi was really taken aback. Everyone panicked. "Junior sister, what's wrong with you?" The word crying has never been associated with Sci-fucking. Maybe it's also because she likes to hide alone when she cries, licking her wounds in the corner, and doesn't want to show them to outsiders. But now, she was crying like a treasured child. I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine." Sci-fucking wiped his tears, but couldn't wipe them off. "I'm just so happy." Yuan Mingqi frowned, and his expression became serious. "What's going on? You don't want to hold back everything in your heart, and say that your brothers and sisters will make decisions for you." "I'm really happy." Sci-fucking took out a tissue and quickly wiped away her tears. She stood up and muttered to herself, "I'm going to see him, and I'm going to see him now." Before Yuan Mingqi and Yu Ejian could react, Sci-fucking had already run away. She ran extremely fast, even Yuan Mingqi couldn't catch up. Yu Ejian was also at a loss. "What's going on, little junior sister?" Yuan Mingqi narrowed his eyes slightly. Could it be that her boyfriend made her cry? As soon as these words came out, a murderous look appeared on his face. Yu Jian was choked. "I can't." She stayed by Sci-fucking's side the longest, and of course she knew Yu Xian's attitude towards Sci-fucking. She has always been coaxed like a little girl. How could she be willing to bully her? Yuan Mingqi said lightly, "That's not necessarily true. I want to follow to see." Tsukimi couldn't stop it. She thought to herself, in order to prevent the fifth child from being injured, she should follow along to join in the fun. Yu Xian is also very busy these days. Xiao Wenjian, the leader of the Qinjun League, and the elder of the Feng family also knew his identity as Emperor Yin, and the defense deployment of the 5 prefectures of the Great Xia was waiting for him to give orders. After being given the temporary crime of no wife by her girlfriend, Yu Xian didn't take much rest, and went to the mountain guard formation in Longmei of Bizhu. Ninth brother Feng San walked in beamingly. "Miss Si is here to find you." He lowered his voice. "Miss Si must be reluctant to part with you. You see, she is protecting you between you and the chief of T18. Yu Xian glanced at him indifferently. "Can you only talk?" Feng San was stunned. "Huh? I. Is there something wrong with what he said?" Obviously, he should have accurately captured Brother Ju's flattery. Yu Xian put down the book in his hand. His tone couldn't hear the joy or anger. "Go out." Feng San walked out dejectedly, but she was also quite thankful in her heart. Fortunately, he didn't hear the words, "Is this how you work as a secret guard?" Nor was he banished to the far north. Feng San had just left the room, and before he had time to go down the steps, he felt a gust of wind and was directly knocked to the ground. It was Sci-fucking who ran over. Feng San hissed and rubbed his shoulders, thinking that Miss C's body is really a solid wall, and she almost knocked him apart. But at the same time, Feng San is also envious. When will he have a girlfriend who can come to him? It's been just over a day since Miss Mingming and Brother Nine separated. Feng San left wisely, and told others not to approach. Inside the house, just as Yu Zian was about to stand up, the girl rushed towards him and threw herself into his arms. Great impact. Even Yu Zian was able to catch her firmly with both arms. Sci raised his head, his eyes were still red. The tears on his face were not covered up, they were very clear, obviously he had cried more than once just now. Yu Zian's eyes changed slightly, ching ching. He heard her beating heart and saw the sweat on her forehead. He paused. Did the girl run over? Sci just looked at him and didn't speak. After nearly 3 months of cultivation, the appearance of Yu Zian's soul finally appeared in front of her. It was still a little blurry, and he couldn't see his facial features clearly. But she was already able to see the young emperor who once sent troops to fight in all directions. At this moment, he does not have the indifferent, cold, and decisive appearance of 1,500 years ago. He stared at her blankly, his eyes that had always been devoid of any emotion were stained with pity. She was the only one in his eyes. Sci raised his hand, wanting to touch his face. His fingers trembled so badly that he couldn't put them down. She wanted to say something, but when she opened her mouth, her throat seemed to be blocked and filled with soreness. Thousands of words can't describe it, and the tears rolled down again. All of them fell on his hands, and they were astonishingly hot. Yu Zian's heart tightened, and her hands hugged her even tighter to prevent her from falling. He asked in a low voice, "What's wrong?" Crying like this again made him feel bad. "Good morning. Babies with a monthly ticket can vote for His Majesty and King King's fairy love. I really like Your Majesty and Ching Ching. Maybe their emotional drama is slower compared to the other 3 books, but it is completely natural. OUO. Fairy Love 5555. After having everything taken away, she returns as a god. Author, Qing Qian. Chapter 799. The day he fought with Yun Ying, it might not be called a fight. It was just some kind of friendly discussion between 2 grown men. Of course, both sides were not polite to each other's face, and just hit it with their fists. When the men fight, many things become smoother. Yun Ying said that the junior sister has always been carefree and a very messy witch who has caused a lot of troubles, but she is extremely sincere towards people. Until a big change happened. She was silent for a long time. She spent many nights hiding, facing the sea alone, crying silently. Why things turned out like this, their senior brothers and sisters didn't know. Only Yu Zian knew that this was because her sister was killed. This is a secret between them. He was also willing to spend the rest of his life waiting for the day she told him. Yu Zian didn't ask any more questions, just hugged her and let her vent her inner emotions and grievances in his arms. After a long period of silence, Sci raised his head again. He smiled slightly, picked up a tissue and gently wiped the tears on her face. "Are you feeling better? Can you tell me now? Why did you come here?" She suddenly grabbed his wrist. Her hands were also surprisingly cold. Although it is already the end of March, the temperature in Bazhu is still a bit low. Yu Zian frowned slightly, took off his coat and wrapped the girl in his arms. "Just run over here, why don't you remember that you are an evolved person?" Sci still didn't speak, and her other hand clasped his shoulder. The touch is real and warm. His body temperature and the familiar fragrance of moonlit night fell on her body. No lie. I was dreaming. Sci finally moved. She buried her head on his chest, her voice muffled. "I dreamed that you were dead, and I couldn't save you. I could only watch helplessly. With you. My sister left me, you can't." At that time, she watched Emperor Yin die in front of her. She indeed only had reverence for Emperor Yin. But I also really felt what heartbreaking is. She thought, How could such a high-spirited man die so early? But now he was standing in front of her alive, looking at her with great concern. Uzion was silent for a moment, and hugged her tighter with his arms. Maybe I can't guarantee anything, but I will promise that no matter what, I will leave my life to you. Sci-fi looked at him closely, and her voice was hoarse. I don't believe it, you swear to God. How can God restrain me? He smiled softly and whispered, Ching Ching, I swear to you. He never promises easily. Sci-fi's heart suddenly shook, and she looked up suddenly. Those eyes stared back at her. It is a gentleness that is rare to see in an emperor. This is Emperor Yin. Only Emperor Yin would not take things like destiny seriously. Okay, keep your word. Her voice was hoarse. She rested her head on his shoulder again, and hugged him tightly. It's like a wounded lion cub finally has a haven to rely on. Soon, her breathing calmed down and she fell into sleep. Uzion also felt it, and he was startled. She actually fell asleep like this. Quietly. Uzion frowned. He raised his hand to clasp her wrist and quietly checked for pulse. His pulse was stable, but he was out of strength. I cried until I was exhausted. Uzion sighed. How could he not feel distressed? He picked her up, walked upstairs to the bedroom, and carefully placed her on the bed. After covering her with the quilt, he did not leave, but sat quietly next to her. He traveled dozens of kilometers to find him because of a dream. Maybe some of his worries were unnecessary. Uzion thought about how to tell her his identity in a better way. Suddenly there was a heavy noise downstairs. He narrowed his roofing eyes and waved his hand as he had already reached the first floor through space transformation. The one who came in was Yuan Mingqi. Where's the junior sister? Yuan Mingqi's eyes were a little dangerous. Uzion responded lightly, asleep. Yuan Mingqi said, Lao San and I went to deliver things to our junior sister today and found that she was crying hard. You. Oh, Uzion raised her eyes slightly, I haven't asked Mr. Yuan yet. She was normal before I left. What did you do to make her become like this? I will protect her closely. Yuan Mingqi. This trick of complaining first is the same as Yunying and Si-fucking. Where did you learn it? Yuan Mingqi turned his head and narrowed his eyes. Lao San, you have nothing to say. Yu Jian raised his head. Ah, the weather is really nice today. Oh, Huo Yangxing came to see me. Hey, this task is so important. I'm going out. You guys can chat slowly. She really left just like that. Yuan Mingqi's smile did not change. Very good. He remembered. The second brother was right, the little junior sister was indeed snatched away by the big bad wolf. At this moment, he received a message. Kukaki Minjiao, dungeon, fight, choose one of the two. Yuan Ming Pond, copy. Kukaki Minjiao, 2 minutes. Yuan Mingqi summoned a Yamata no Orakai and told it to stay outside the villa, while he left and found an internet cafe. Between taking the eldest lady of the Kukaki family to play games or fighting with her, he would choose the former. Si slept all day and night. The physical fatigue is real, but more importantly the mental fear. After confirming that Uzion was Queen Yin, her tense spirit completely relaxed. Wake up, he sat in the sunshine and waved to her, you are hungry, come here and have something to eat, and then go to sleep later. The warm sunshine dyed his eyebrows and eyes into pale gold, and his whole person was so beautiful that it was almost unreal. From her perspective, she could see his dual appearance. The current one and the aloof emperor thousands of years ago. She slowly stood up and sat down. After taking a bite of the lotus cake he handed me, tears fell again. He also moved very quickly. He quickly covered her eyes with a tissue and started wiping them. Why are you crying again? Uzion was a little helpless. I don't want to make you cry. He stood up and hugged her. I am here, not dead, You can hear my heartbeat. No, I fucking lowered his head. I just woke up and saw you there, and I felt that this world was very good. Her words were plain and simple, but they moved his heart. Uzion rubbed her stupid hair in a funny way and raised her eyebrows. Why are you so good at coaxing me all of a sudden? Are you planning to do some earth-shattering thing by yourself again without telling me? No way. Why are you the one who complained first? I fucking muttered. I'm obviously very serious. She finished a piece of lotus cake and was thinking about how she should say that she was Wu Yi. But once the words came to his lips, he couldn't say them out. It's a game system. The game Eternal also has an impact on reality. The strength gained by game players in the Eternal continent will also be fed back into reality. It's just that the Earth is a high-tech world. Even if it has supernatural elements, it cannot exert the power to move mountains and seas like a magical world like the Eternal continent. As expected, she couldn't tell the story of her experience with Emperor Yin. Uzion can only recognize it by himself. But the terrible thing is that Wu Yi is a man. That ghost is even more mysterious and bizarre. I fucking fell silent, and then her eyes lit up again as if she thought of something. She could give him another bowl of noodles. Maybe after eating it, he would at least know that she was the ghost. I fucking stood up immediately. What about me? Before she finished speaking, her words suddenly stopped. I fucking suddenly realized a big problem. She used to praise Emperor Yin's fame and glory very passionately in front of him. As a qualified fan, she did not hesitate to use all the beautiful words about him. What snow in the sky, moon among the clouds, white moonlight, cinnabar mole. Emperor Yin at that time was still very far away for her. Even if she can travel back to the Great Xia dynasty through eternity and stay with him as the Wei military advisor, a character that does not exist in history. But in her mind, Emperor Yin was still not from the same dimension as her. So of course she could be unscrupulous, and even discussed with Uzion enthusiastically some fanfics about Emperor Yin on the internet. Some fanfics are so bold that they drive on the highway. She read them all to him. Looking back now, she wanted to hit a wall. And he just listened so calmly and with a smile. With a swish sound, I fucking looked faintly at the man who was holding her in one hand and flipping through documents with the other hand. I will spend my entire life in front of His Majesty. I don't swear to God, I only swear to you. The best Ching Ching and Your Majesty in the world. Woo woo woo. There are still 20 votes left to reach 800. The votes at the beginning of the month are very important. Everyone, please give our selfish couple a shot. See you tomorrow. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After having everything taken away, she returns as a god. Author, Ching Qian. Chapter 800. The man was wearing a white sweater. The sunlight blurred his outline and diluted the sharp aura on his body, making his whole person look soft. It has the smoke of fireworks falling into the world. This was a feeling that Emperor Yin had never given her. I fucking was stunned. She found that as long as she looked at him quietly and did nothing, everything was already wonderful. She never thought that she would have any intersection with this eternal emperor. There is one more important thing. She said in front of him more than once that Emperor Yin didn't need any love, he just wanted to be with his world. Whoever dares to break up this pair of destined CPS will be hunted down to the ends of the earth. Could it be that she is after herself? What's more, she watched Emperor Yin grow up. Although Xiao Yinhuang is far more mature than his peers, she still treats him as a child. Especially seeing the way he occasionally suppressed tears in his eyes because of the pain of the wounds on his body, maternal love instantly overflowed. When he grew up, he became a real man. She still only had respect for him. Now, two completely different emotions were impacting her. At the same time, Fucking was overwhelmed by an unprecedented sense of social shame. Her brain was overloaded, the heat was rising, and her eyes were losing their highlights. Uzion noticed that the girl suddenly became dull while eating, like a salted fish without a dream in life. He raised his hand and touched her hair. "What are you thinking about?" His eyes were full of smiles, as if they were filled with stars. And among these stars, she saw her appearance again. Unique and unchangeable. Fucking whispered, "Your character is ruined." It is understandable that her boyfriend treats her like this, but Emperor Yin? Even though he was right in front of her, close at hand, she still couldn't imagine what it would be like for Emperor Yin to be dragged into the world of mortals. Personality, Uzion thought thoughtfully, "Ching ching, in the future you will find that my personality will keep changing with you." Fucking's voice was stuck for a moment, and she felt that her whole body was beginning to overheat. Uzion touched her face again. "Why is your face so red? Aren't everyone already immune to his face?" Fucking said expressionlessly, "It's too hot." Of course she knew that this kind of thing couldn't be said easily. If it were her, she would be the same. But who can make her sense of social death disappear? Fucking covered her face, a little reluctant to see people. "What's wrong?" Uzion was a little funny. "Want to go out for a walk?" She nodded dully. He took her downstairs. By chance, Mo Yanwen and Xiao Wenjian came in to report the matter. Fucking just glanced at the two of them and already saw everything. Mo Yanwen knew it, and so did Xiao Wenjian. She began to quickly sort out all the clues. Mo Yanwen should be the first to know. No wonder the Mo family respects Uzion so much. After all, Emperor Yin was the only master of the Mo family. Xiao Wenjian knew it should be last year. She recalled Xiao Wenjian's sudden change in attitude, and her eyes gradually became sharper. She had long heard that the dragon bird sword had been with Emperor Yin for 13 years. It had already become spiritual and would automatically find its owner. I'm afraid it was the dragon bird sword that Xiao Wenjian recognized. No wonder he has been reluctant to join the Thousand Army Alliance. It must also be because he is afraid that the dragon bird sword will expose him. Mo Yanwen greeted skillfully, "MSSI is well." Fucking gritted his teeth and smiled, "It's not good at all." Mo Yanwen. He looked at Uzion a little helplessly, with questioning eyes. Uzion just raised his chin slightly. "What's the matter?" With the help of the Ji family, the formations of the 5 dragon veins have been connected. Mo Yanwen clasped his fists. "In the 5 states of Daxia, mister, you can rest assured." Fucking glanced at Mo Yanwen. What a master of acting. She saw that Mo Yanwen had already bitten the word "Your Majesty" in his mouth, and actually swallowed it back. Mo Yanwen felt a murderous aura lingering around him. He looked up with some confusion and saw Fucking smiling at her. A smile that is both deadly and dangerous. Mo Yanwen thought to himself, he shouldn't have offended Miss Si, right? 9. Fucking paused, not knowing what to call him for a moment. "Shall I cook for you?" Uzion also paused, and raised his eyebrows. "Ching ching." Fucking held his chin and smiled, "You are so kind to me, I will definitely repay you." She bit the last 2 words hard. Hearing these words, Uzion fell into silence. He began to think about what he had done wrong for her to cook for him. Mo Yanwen spoke in time. "Miss Si, there is not enough kitchen for you here. I heard that Miss Si would have to blow up many kitchens to make a meal, but she hasn't been able to succeed yet." "It's okay." Fucking had already made up his mind. "I'll go to Eternal Continent to cook it for you. I won't use a gas stove, an ordinary stove will suffice." Uzion raised his eyebrows higher. He thought in his mind that he once had a bowl of extremely unpleasant noodles that he would never forget for the rest of his life. His girl shouldn't be able to cook something more delicious than this, right? Maybe that's acceptable. He nodded slightly. "Okay, You go down. Mo Yanwen and Xiao Wenjian resigned. After going out, Xiao Wenjian couldn't help but said, "Brother Mo, did you feel that Miss C's gaze just now seemed to kill me?" Mo Yanwen choked, "Did Alliance leader Xiao feel it too?" The two looked at each other. What did they do wrong? Eternal Continent, Ghost Valley. Si fucking asked Uzian to sit down in a pavilion by the stream, and he took the Lord of the Ghost Valley to whisper. After hearing this, the Lord of Ghost Valley was so shocked that he pulled out a few of his beards. "You cook?" "No, you can cook." "Master, there is one more thing," Si fucking asked very humbly. "If when you were a child and someone you liked discovered that you peed your pants at the age of 15, how would you overcome this strong sense of shame?" Fart, the Lord of Ghost Valley was furious. "Your master, I have already entered the spiritual realm at the age of 15, and can already automatically gather the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Why do I still do such stupid things?" The Lingyuan realm is the division of power system in the Eternal Continent. When you reach the Lingyuan realm, you can automatically gather the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. How many indigenous NPCs will never reach this level in their entire lives? The Lord of Ghost Valley arrived easily at the age of 15. The top 10 evil NPCs are also extremely talented in cultivation. Why do you ask that? The Lord of Ghost Valley was confused. Could it be that you? I didn't, I was just making an analogy. Si fucking lowered his head and said in a difficult voice, "The truth is 10,000 times stupider than what I said. Besides, there is no one I like as a teacher." As he said that, the Lord of Ghost Valley looked at her with disgust. "Only young people like you are energetic in this kind of thing." Si fucking said tentatively, "Then what if in front of the senior Lord Demon Abyss? If he discovers my scandal, I will kill him directly." The Lord of Ghost Valley looked gloomy. "If you can't solve the problem, then solve the person who caused the problem." Si fucking. As expected of her master. But how could she be willing to solve the problem? Si fucking lit the fire while thinking about how to make her feel less social. A loud shout suddenly fell from the sky. "Gooey goo, bring out your good wine and meat quickly, let us two old friends have a good chat." The Lord of the Ghost Valley immediately jumped to his feet. "Get out. Get out as far as you want." Lord Demon Abyss had already entered the Ghost Valley and laughed loudly. "I knew my disciple would definitely come to you." Uzian nodded slightly. "Master." Lord Moiwan smiled and said, "It just so happens that our family will have a meal together today." The Lord of the Ghost Valley was even angrier. "Who the F***ing family is with you?" Lord Moiwan was not angry and suddenly said, "Hey, Gigo, someone is here to visit you." "What?" The Lord of Ghost Valley walked out. He raised his hand, and a curtain of water appeared in the pavilion. On the curtain is the scene outside the valley. A middle-aged man was standing outside with 3 young people. The postures of the 4 of them were all pious. Si fucking also walked out, and the next moment, her pupils suddenly shrank. His body also trembled violently. An unprecedented strong sense of disgust is coming out. Uzian had quick eyes and quick hands, holding her shoulders. Ching ching. Lord Moiwan was also surprised. "What's wrong with the little girl?" "I'm fine." Si fucking shook his head slightly. "Master, who is he?" The Lord of the Ghost Valley frowned and looked at the middle-aged man outside the valley, and finally shook his head. "He? I have no impression of him as a teacher, and I don't know which force he belongs to. What's wrong?" This was the first time he had seen her so excited. Si fucking looked closely at the middle-aged man who was chatting and laughing with the 3 young people. Ji King Gui's godfather. NPC number, 1183. "Good morning." "Ching ching, of course I don't want to do anything to idols, so I have no choice but to do it to you." Mo Yanwen. Xiao Wenjian. The plot development is clearly starting to move towards the ending. After having everything taken away, she returns as a god. Author, Qing Qian. Chapter 801. Just now, when the middle-aged man appeared, the tracking talisman Yuan Mingqi gave her suddenly became hot. It was as if I had finally found my purpose. Looking at the very obvious NPC number, at this moment, even Sci-Fi's thoughts are not enough. The player's game system panel will mark the NPC. At this moment, a string of characters marked NPC 1183 was placed on top of the Godfather's head. This is the number of the NPC. Numbered NPCs are unique data. The higher the number, the stronger the strength. The number of the Lord of Ghost Valley is a single digit. Ji Qinggui's godfather turned out to be an NPC from the Eternal Continent. Sci-Fi grabbed Yu Xian's arm tightly, and chatted with him privately through the game system. Ninth brother, take a look at him, has he been hurt by you? Last year Ji's family had an accident, we went to help Qingyao. Yu Xian's eyes also changed suddenly. His eyes were sharp and murderous. It's him, Qing. Sci-Fi's body trembled. Yu Xian also affirmed that the middle-aged man was the one he injured a few months ago. But the NPC in the Eternal Continent is just a piece of data, how could it come to the real world? More than once. The Godfather has been to the Great Xia Empire twice, once more than 10 years ago, and once last year, but his appearance has not changed in any way. Maybe he can't be called an NPC anymore. Sci-Fi's pupils shrank suddenly. Ninth brother. Yu Xian's eyes darkened, and she obviously guessed together with her. But he still comforted her first. Qing, I'm here. After a while, he sighed, no wonder, I've been thinking, how can there be such a real game? All this proves that the Eternal Continent is not a holographic game at all, but a real world. Suddenly, many puzzled things can make sense. Every plant and tree in the Eternal Continent is very real, and the NPCs are also very vivid. Because they are not cold data at all, but real people. The game Eternal just provided them with a passage to the Eternal Continent. Therefore, players can bring out items from the Eternal Continent through the game cabin. Master. Sci-Fi suddenly hugged the Lord of Ghost Valley, you are alive, you are really alive. The Lord of Ghost Valley was stunned, at a loss for the first time. Am I not dead? Lord Moiwan laughed, Gigo, your apprentice misses you, old man, why are you being hypocritical? As soon as he finished speaking, when he turned around, he saw his apprentice was also looking at him fixedly. Yu Xian smiled slightly, Master, so you are a real person. Lord Moiwan. What's going on? He and Gigo's apprentices are very strange today. He is not a real person, could it be that he is still a puppet? Okay, stinky girl, why are you so sensational? The Lord of Gigo couldn't laugh or cry. Do you have something to tell, Master? Tell me, Master, listen. Sci-Fi responded softly. To him, the Lord of Ghost Valley is both a master and a father. 300 years cannot be faked. When knowing that the Eternal Continent is real, all emotions are gushed out. Sci-Fi calmed down, thought for a while, and then asked, Master, you are already bored in the Eternal Continent, don't you think about visiting other worlds? The Eternal Continent is a magical world. Moving mountains and seas is a very rare and common thing. Even a high-tech world like reality has judged the existence of parallel universes through quantum mechanics. Not to mention the Eternal Continent. The Lord of Ghost Valley frowned. As a teacher, I naturally know that the universe is so big that there must be more than one world, but it is even more difficult to go to other worlds. Lord Moiwan rarely agrees and said, Apprentice, your master and I are already very strong, but we are still far away from breaking the void and swimming in the universe. Since the establishment of the Eternal Continent, hey, it seems that only a few people have reached this level. Anyway, I have never seen these people. That's right, and if you want to shatter the void, strength alone is not enough, You also need to have inheritance. The Lord of Ghost Valley nodded, and suddenly reacted, furious, what do you call me an apprentice? Don't be angry, the two babies will get married sooner or later. Lord Mon still smiled, it doesn't matter if I call in advance. Seeing that the Lord of Ghost Valley was about to roll up his sleeves and come forward again, Sci-fi interrupted the dispute between the two in time. Master, what is inheritance? Inheritance is equivalent to a quota that can shatter the void. It is said that it is in the tomb of the gods. The Lord of Ghost Valley said, the tomb of the gods is the cemetery of the gods as the name suggests, and there are the remains of the gods inside. Without inheritance, without this quota, even if your strength is beyond the sky, you will not be able to get out. As a teacher, you have to think about it. Sci-fi's expression froze. She didn't know who the Godfather was loyal to, but she could guess that it was a strong man from the Eternal Continent. Obviously, the strength of the Godfather is far behind that of the Lord of Ghost Valley. The Lord of Ghost Valley can kill 100 Godfathers without much effort. But the Godfather was able to come to her world twice. Apparently it was sent over. The enemy turned out to be much stronger than she imagined, and she didn't even have any plan to face it. For the first time, Sci-fi knew what it means to be helpless. At this time, a warm hand held her cold hand. Her face was also held up. Uzion's voice was calm, Ching Ching, look at me, how difficult it is, let's face it together. Sci-fi held his hand instead, okay, from now on. This time, she's not alone. Master Sci-Fu tilted his head, and finally confided everything, I have been separated from you for a long time, it is indeed because I was unable to show up in those years, I died, I finally woke up, my luck was plundered, and my strength is full not one. The Lord of Ghost Valley has already heard it. Listen to it again, still can't restrain the monstrous anger. Lord Moiwan was also furious, who? I've been looking for him for a long time, but I didn't expect him to come to you today. Master Sci-fi smiled, I asked Master to help me. The Lord of Ghost Valley instantly looked at the middle-aged man in the water curtain, it's him. He sneered, very well, let him in. There is no way to go to heaven, and no way to go to hell. Outside Ghost Valley. A young man hesitated and asked, Brother Zhong, will the owner of Ghost Valley be in the valley today? It should be here. Zhong Shanwen squinted his eyes, and he is not the only one in the valley, there is probably another one. Although he is incapable of writing and martial arts, his research on luck is unrivaled. Otherwise, the adults would not entrust such an important matter as plundering the luck of the daughter of luck to him. He could see that Gigo's luck was extremely tyrannical at the moment. Just as they were talking, the fog at the entrance of Ghost Valley suddenly dispersed. Zhong Shanwen's expression lifted, the Lord of Ghost Valley agrees with us to go in, let's go. The three young men were overjoyed and followed Zhong Shanwen in. The four followed the instructions and went all the way to the depths of Ghost Valley. By the stream, two old men are playing chess. Very contented appearance. It turned out to be Senior Moiwan. Zhong Shanwen was very respectful, no wonder there is another aura of auspiciousness outside the Ghost Valley when I see it. It is not surprising that it is Senior Moiwan. The Lord of Ghost Valley used all his life's restraint to suppress his anger and killing intent. He even showed a very kind smile, you are. I'm Zhong Shanwen. Zhong Shanwen clasped his fists, I want to ask Senior Gigo for help with something very important. It would be even better if Senior Moiwan could join us. Lord Moiwan also smiled, okay, Gigo and I are here to help you. Hearing this sentence, Zhong Shanwen hesitated instead. The Lord of Ghost Valley and the Lord of Demon Abyss have always been in a love-killing relationship, but both of them have very weird tempers. Why today? Zhong Shanwen suddenly had a bad premonition, he hurriedly said, the two seniors are playing chess, and the junior should not bother you, let's go first. He didn't finish the following words, and with a click, his neck was suddenly locked. The smile on the face of the Lord of Ghost Valley disappeared, leaving only a bone-chilling coldness. Zhong Shanwen turned pale with shock. Senior Gigo, you. The Lord of Ghost Valley sneered coldly, the old man also wants to help you, but tell me why you are so short-sighted and plundered luck to the old man's apprentice. With a boom, Zhong Shanwen's head exploded. The apprentice of the Lord of Ghost Valley. Hey, Gigo, it's not just your apprentice who robbed, but also my apprentice's daughter-in-law, Lord Moiwan said slowly. How dare you come to find you, Tisk. Zhong Shanwen's brain was completely exhausted, his eyes trembled, and he lost his voice. Disciple-in-law. Meet you again. I fucking walked out slowly from behind the pavilion. So your name is Zhong Shanwen. This time, don't try to run away. The amount of information in this chapter is relatively large, you can read it several times. OUO. The Eternal Continent will not write in detail, only the content of the main line. Babies who like to read fantasy can read my first 2 books. See you tomorrow.